So this is basically the server cross battle, right? More or less, this is server brawl, I guess. That's how we like to call it, right? And the idea behind server brawl is you can either do one of two things. You can either go after players, right? Or you can go and fight the monsters. My personal favorite is hitting the monsters because it's fairly easy to do, going to Leech Kingdom and then just going crazy in Leech Kingdom seems to be kind of the way I like to go about doing things. Now, you can't go into Candy Kingdom if you're like a little lower level or you're just not doing as well. But, generally speaking, I like to pretty much thrive in the Leech Kingdom. And I don't know. I mean, I've tried Shroom, but Shroom is always a little slow, and it's like, yeah, the rewards are better, but you don't kill them as fast when you're like 20 to 22k like I am. And so, thus, you are on this infinite escapade of hitting monsters. And then when you actually get down to like the last minute or two, that is when you'll switch gears, attack a player or two, or three, just to get that extra added timer so that you can hit a couple more monsters before you have to zoom out. And of course, the main thing here is that, it's 2,000 gems or so, roughly a pop, every time you jump back in. So if it costs you nothing the first time, it's going to cost you 2,000 the next time. And, if you're wanting to be competitive in the event, you've basically got to be on it like Donkey Kong. You've got to be, this is why I prefer playing Gorilla, because you need the speed. You need to be able to go and out and marching quick and fighting fun. And that's really all there is to server brawl, really. I mean, you're just ultimately trying to rank. Now, the thing is, I like going auto, and I go auto with monsters only, so that way I can just tap, wait for it to finish cooling down, and then rinse repeat. And, average somewhere between 60 and 70 monsters is usually about how fast I'm able to go, but, I think you could very easily jump over and above that. Like when I was hitting players, I mean, if you're like one of the bigger, better, badder players in the entire server, right, you can very easily rack up a kill count of like 30, 35, 40, maybe even high as 50 fairly quickly. Like, it is not a stretch by any means in this. The reason why a lot of people are doing this, though, and this is part of the reason why you should be is you can get special skills like the Windboard Arrow, Crimson Moonfall. I believe you can even get the Dragon Ascension, I think, is also from this. So, as far as like special skills goes, this is a great opportunity to get them. And of course, you don't have to worry about like running into things. This very much works like an idle game you would expect. And then you pop speed up so you move very quick. Go to the next location, rinse, repeat. It's not terribly complicated by any means. But like the idea here in practice is that you're trying to hit as many of these as you can possible, because you want to rank so that way you get the actual rewards that come with the ranking. Now, obviously, it's like you can really pick three. I would argue you can sometimes manage doing all but maybe two or three, because you can basically go into your own server, defend it, which is to say you can basically go hunt down the people that are attacking other players and knock them the hell out, the people that are hitting monsters, vice versa. You can also hit other individual monsters in your own server. That's another option. You can also go and you can go, instead of just hitting other players' states, you can actually go fight in your own state if you want to. That's totally optional. So you're not like limited to just this one thing. Like, you don't have to pop the 2,000 gems if you don't want to. That is to say, if you've already used your zero free, use for that day. Again, these are always on, a weekend, more or less. So there's not really a whole lot that goes into it. And part of the reason why I do auto is for that reason, right? Like, I don't even have to think about it. It just jumps straight into it. I don't even have to really put a whole lot of thought into it. It's just quickly bounce over, hit the next monster, rinse, repeat. And you're not like you're going to get any special rewards or anything. Like, yeah, obviously, if you can find like elite tier monsters, great. But the only thing this event really keeps track of is the number of monsters you've killed, not necessarily the type of monsters you've killed. Which I know is kind of stupid, but depends on what kind of points you're after. If you're after like the gold flake points that you get at the top there, then that's going to give you everything from like, maybe some speed ups, a little bit of, little stuff. It's never anything valuable, right? If anything in general. Okay, so like here, I don't want mine on the edge, so I'll go ahead and pop speed up if I can, and we're going to go, and I like to kind of follow those squares, so you can kind of see the dots on the mini map on the top left are basically monsters. The ones that look like shrooms are obviously, well, exactly that, players. And you're really just kind of trying to go through here and do as many of these as you can possible. And again, it's very much a grid fashion, like how they've set the spawns up. So in a way, you can kind of follow almost kind of a grid pattern. You know, if you kind of get yourself situated in between, you can do roughly about 4 every cycle. So basically just following this line, I can just basically smack 2 of them, get to the next row, smack another 2, and it's just rinse repeat. You know, it's like it doesn't take a lot of work, doesn't involve a whole lot of effort, and I should be able to get to around 10,000 points with any luck, as long as I'm really quick about it. And you know, again, the big trick is to find, like, you know, stashes like this where, you know, you get 2, 3, 4, 5 monsters relatively fast. That's ideal. But you know, by no means, you know, are you going to be able to run through? I mean, I've seen some of the more competitive players do cross server. It seems like most of the time, if you get paired up with a dead server, that's ideal, because that's, you know, that's how you're going to basically rack up the most amount of points that you can possibly gain during this event. Plus, it's, you know, it's an easy way to really just kind of work on your individual character without having to, like, stress out over it, you know. And if anything, like I said, I think personally, I think Leech Kingdom is probably the best one if you're doing the monsters. Now, if you're doing PvP, I mean, PvP is kind of dependent on where you're at. Typically, a lot of people love going to Candy Kingdom because it's one of the lowest level areas. You know, and that for that reason, you know, you typically find a lot of the PvP players are going to be in the kingdoms where a lot of the lower level players hide and reside at, because, well, obviously, lower level players, easier pool of people to kill, and therefore, you know, more kills. But, you know, like anything, you know, you're not going to want to stress yourself too much here. Now, like here, I know I'm at the last 2 minutes, so now I'm going to start looking for players. I'm going to start going in that general direction. I'm going to still probably focus on hunting monsters as I'm going through, because part of the reason why is because usually about 3 players kills into it, you start getting thrown onto the bounties. And then that's where you actually start having to deal with players. So like here, I'll go ahead and knock this monster out here, and then I'll knock this guy out. And we will very quickly, and again, by size is kind of what determines whether they're good, bad, strong, all the above, you know. So in many ways, you don't really have to sweat so much. Like this guy's relatively around the same size, so I don't want to probably pick a fight with him if I don't have to. But that is not to say that I can't. And again, this is a really good area because we've got a ton of monsters in one place, so we can really easily, quickly rapid fire through a bunch of these without any trouble at all, probably. Again, just trying to kind of minimize any chance that we're actually going to get attacked, because again, one of the biggest gripes that I'll have with this event is that you can easily get spawn camped. The moment you get on the actual menu is when you're going to find yourself getting spawn camped. That is to say, you'll get paired against players that will very easily walk all over you. That the whales will just smell blood in the air and just jump all over you. If they think you're a target, they'll take advantage of you. Okay, like you will easily become a pawn in their own little scheme, so to speak. You know, it's like it's not relatively difficult to find yourself in that situation, especially during server cross battle. You know, it's like it's relatively easy to do. You know, like here, you know, again, getting the 2 kills there is ideal, but again, with 5 seconds on the clock, I'm probably going to run out of time. And so, enough time to get that 1 monster kill in. And so, 67 monsters and 2 enemies in. And, you know, again, you just go back here into rankings, and then you can go by monster slayer rankings. And the idea is obviously just to rank in higher rankings will obviously get you better and better loot, but you're going to be dealing with everybody else that is also trying to do the same thing. Ideally, you know, if you can do it, or at least manage it, you want to do all your personal tasks, because again, the cross-server crystals are the currency of choice. And in here, as you can tell, you can get speed ups, magic lamps, pick axes, soul essence, advanced seeds, soul crystals, mount dungeon keys, relic dungeon keys. I mean, there's all sorts of different stuff in here, but generally speaking, I don't worry about, you know, too much of one thing. Of course, you can get the 100 slashes, the windborne arrow, and the crimson moonfall, as well as their shards in this point shop. So if you've been wondering where to find them, that is where you look. And ultimately, this is where you want to go for the server matches. Now, you might have heard of cross-server ranked match, and this is effectively arena for your other servers. The only thing that's notable about this is that you do want to go in here for the awakening crystals and save pretty much everything for them, because that's ultimately what you want to do in here. If you've got any extra, then you might want to worry about it after you've already got all of your awakening crystals, because in this game, awakening crystals are very valuable. Needless to say, that is pretty much everything you need to know as far as the cross-server matches go. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I'll see you guys to the next video.